This is your coffee break.
Exactly. I was like, this is gonna go off very well. Now we're just like we broke the ice by miming and it's fine.
I love it.
So
Hey, friends. This week for our coffee break episode, I am so pleased to have on my show Jenny Bravo, who has one of the most awesome and epic names I've probably ever heard in real life. She is, a published author. She is the owner of the Blots and Plots blog, which I'm excited to talk a little bit more about today. There's some exciting news coming up there. Jenny, welcome.
thank you so much for having me. I'm really a big fan, as you knew, and I kind of reached out to you and was like, "Hi, I love you. Can I be a part of this somehow? Can we make this happen?"
Love
So
it.
yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you. I'm so excited that you reached out. I think I'd been following you on Twitter, maybe or maybe not, but I love
Hmm.
connecting with people who, I don't know, just have such a great energy about them and such a great message for people. And I think you're just doing amazing work with your blog. And so I kind of like now stalk you on all the social medias. So I hope that's not creepy.
Perfect. No,
Okay.
I stalk you on all social media as well, so it's totally fine.
Good, good. That's what I like to hear. So, well, gosh, if it's okay with you, I would love to hear first and foremost about the books that you've written.
In March of 2014, I started These Are the Moments, and I published it in May of 2015. So yeah, it's kind of a love story. It's a complicated love story between Simon Guidry and Wendy Lake, and it tells their story of how they met, and it covers 10 years of a relationship that's just back and forth. I love it and it was really fun to write. And so then after that, I knew I kind of wanted to explore that world more and people really connected to the characters. So I was like, I can really kind of turn it never was supposed to be like a series, it was just supposed to be standalone. So then I wrote a prequel to it that's from Wendy, like Wendy's sister. It's about her sister Claudia. And now I just came out with Moments Like These, which is a twist on These Are the Moments, and it's from Simon's perspective. So it's one full length book and then two smaller books. So yeah, those were all just published. The prequel was published in January, and the novella was published in February. Yeah,
Very exciting. And those came out really close together then.
they did. They did. I wrote them pretty much like hand in hand. And then I sent them over to my editor and I was like, I have two things for you. Here you go. And she was like, all right, let's go. So,
That is
yeah, they
awesome.
did come out close together. They were pretty much finished right around the same time. I actually held Moments Like These for a little bit because I didn't want to shock everyone and be like, here are two books. You're welcome. So,
And I think that's especially impressive because if I have this correct, you work a full time job.
I do. I do. Yes. I do. It's kind of a crazy life because I try to really, balancing is such a difficult task because I want to give all of my time to writing that I can, but then I also love this. I've really tapped into this teaching about writing, and that kind of came out in a way that I didn't expect because I started writing my blog just to sort of document my publishing journey and like hope that people would read it and maybe we could like be friends. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm somehow like people are asking me questions about writing and publishing and this is a thing. So now I'm really just trying to balance like all of these things at one time, but it's coming along really well. And I kind of look back to where I was just a year ago and I'm like, man, this has come pretty far. So it's exciting.
So you're balancing writing for yourself, writing books. I don't know if you have more books in the works,
Oh,
but good. That is awesome. You're
yeah.
doing that. You've got your blog. You're coming out with maybe some exciting other things that have stemmed off of your blog, and you're still working full time.
Yes.
I want to hear more about this.
Basically, the way I kind of balance all of it is I take it project by project and I'm just like, okay, I had this idea that I kind of want to do and let's see if it works. I've just been starting kind of doing workshops with my blog because I knew I really like to do I love video and like I said, I'm a talker. I come from a musical theater background.
Ah.
So it makes me feel like I'm on stage. So I love it. I'm like, any chance to be, in front of a camera, just, talking is great. So I've started doing that. I did my first workshop last week and had a really good response to it. So I was like, I really want to do more of this. So I'm kind of taking that and seeing where that goes. And then I just started my first e-course, and that's all about being a busy writer and managing that, because I was thinking, I knew I wanted to write an e-course, and I was like, what can I write about? And I was like, well, every time I talk to people, their biggest problem is I don't have enough time to write. And every time I'm like, you know what? No one has time. Like, no one has time. And there are definitely people that are way busier than I am, people that are married, have kids. Like, I'm still, in that before that stage. So yeah, I was like, I think I can help people a little bit on this subject. I think I know a little bit about balancing things and making time. I write on my lunch breaks, and I get home and I'm like, okay, hi family, now I'm going to write. Now I'm going to do this. So it's a lot of just knowing what you want to do at that time. And I'm not a planner, so I kind of have to force myself into that. You're not a planner either.
Oh no, I was like shaking my head like,
Yeah.
nope, yeah, I'm no.
I think I'm like a planner by like survival. Like I'm not going to get anything done unless I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I hate wasting time. So if I'm going to sit down on my lunch break and write, like I'll only have about 30, 45 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I better know what I'm writing or else I'm going to have all this wasted time, and there's nothing that I hate more. So I'm just a planner out of survival.
So you write over your lunch break. Do you write and then you write when you get home? What kind of work do you do that allows you to kind of have that leftover creative energy to kind of expend over your
Yeah.
lunch and after work?
Oh, absolutely. And I actually, when I was deciding, like, what am I going to do with my life as far as work wise, I knew I kind of wanted something that wasn't too, like, I had really thought about being a teacher for a while, and I still kind of think about that a lot, which is, I think that's why I love doing blots and plots so much, because I'm teaching and it gives me that kind of energy.
Mhm.
But I wanted to make sure that I had something that it wouldn't just like suck all of my creativity dry. So I'm in the insurance industry. So it's totally opposite. But yeah, so it's right now I'm just kind of working a typical, like, I would say 9 to 5, but really it's 8 to 5. So the great thing about that is once I'm done, I can just leave work and I have that time to just, I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. A lot of people are working more salary jobs where they have to kind of bring their work home with them, but I don't. So that's really nice.
You know what? That's awesome. And that is a choice that you make. I worked in banking for 5 years. And it
Oh,
was such that, like, I could, exactly like you're doing, I could write over my lunch break. I would come home and I would just have so much creative energy stored up that
yeah.
I'd get home and just write like a crazy person. And then I
Yeah.
made a very conscious decision to change careers. And so now I do something creative for pay for my work. And then I come home and I'm
Oh,
like, I'm exhausted. I've used up all my creative energy.
I guess when I first did it too, I didn't realize the first week that I got my first, I guess you say, first adult job or big girl job or whatever you want to call it. Because I'm almost 25, so I haven't been working very long. But the first week that I started this job was the week that I started writing my novel. And I think it was something about being in that office. And I mean, it's such a switch when you start, working a full-time job, and it's such a transition. And before that, I'd been working at Disney World and I was driving safari trucks around and giving speeches. So, like, it
That's
was such a
awesome.
shocker of being like on a safari truck every day and like seeing animals every day to being behind a desk and just staring at a computer all day. I was like, all of this needs to go somewhere. And then that's when I started getting serious about actually writing my novel.
That's super cool. I think you made a really smart decision and you're making the most of that situation and you're doing it
Yeah.
positively. Like seriously, you are doing this right.
It's all about perspective. It really is. Because I think, I mean, I've read, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of other people have read Big Magic
Mhm.
by Elizabeth Gilbert. And so much of it is we can't all make huge amounts of money from our writing. So we have to find other ways, and we have to stop wishing that our circumstances are different and just be okay with what they are and figure it out from there.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Getting into like sort of the meat and potatoes about sort of these time saving strategies. Do you have like a favorite strategy or a favorite like top three or anything like that?
Oh, my biggest thing, and I didn't know about this until, I mean, it took me until I really got involved on Twitter and got involved in like the writing community online. I had no idea that this existed. The sprinting technique, the writing sprinting. So basically, it's like you sit down and you either set a timer. What I do is I sit down and I just look at the time and I'm like, okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm gonna write for 15 minutes. I'm gonna write as fast as I can, and I'm not gonna stop, and I'm gonna see how many words I get. When I do that, I can write like 1,000 words in 30 minutes, which is crazy. Like I could never do that before until I started sprinting. Apparently, I'm more competitive than I thought I was, and until I started doing that, it would take me like I want to say like 2 hours to write 1,000 words. I would just be sitting there and then I'd be like, oh, Twitter's interesting. Oh, I want to go over here. And then I would get nothing done. So when you focus yourself, a really focused writing is that's gonna get you where you need to be. So time yourself. Don't edit as you go. That's so important for, I think a lot of people make that mistake in a first draft. They just try to edit the whole time when really you should be like throwing all the words at the wall and just seeing what sticks. So that's my first tip. And then the other tip that I have would be to just try to write a little bit every day. I know a lot of people do kind of a word count goal. Like they'll be like, okay, I'm going to write 500 words a day. But that seems like really arbitrary to me. Like, I mean, I'm sure it works for a lot of people, but for me personally, I work better on a time thing. So I'm like, I'm going to write for 10 minutes every day at least, rather than like 500 words. Because if I say 500 words, I'm going to be sitting there looking at the words the whole time. Like, how many words do I have? Do I have 200? I only have 250. I have to get to 500. Whereas if I'm like 10 minutes, okay, we'll see how much I can get done. I'll get a lot more done that way. So those are my two big tips. Those are what really kind of get me through and just help me to get as much done in a short amount of time as possible.
I love that. Do you have any favorite tools that you use when you're writing?
Yes, I have a few favorite tools. I either use Scrivener, which I mean, I know everybody in the world loves that. And I love that because the index cards are just the coolest thing ever. And for my first book, it's in a now and then, like back and forth, two timelines. So that like saved me so much because I would have to look and be like, are all of these timelines even? Like what's happening here? So I love Scrivener. I use Google Docs too, and that's great because I can access it on my phone or on my computer and it all syncs together. So I love that. And then I use Spotify, which I know a lot of people use as well. And I love that because I create my own playlist for each of my books and for characters. That way it really kind of sets me in to that world when I'm writing. Yeah, so I love that. And then the Notes app on my phone, I use that I still have a list when I was trying to figure out what I was going to title my book. I have like 150 titles for that book, just that anytime I would think of something, I would just be like writing it down in my notes and trying to figure it out. So that's like where I keep all my ideas that just come out of nowhere. So those are my favorite ones. And then sometimes I'll use the dictation on my phone as well if I'm driving and I just get a random idea. Oh, and of course, pen and paper. That's the best. I have my most popular post on my blog is writing your novel on paper or something, or why you should write your novel on paper. And that's like my number one post. I write my first drafts by hand primarily.
What is it about pen and paper for you that is different?
Well, I started doing that because when I first started writing my novel, I had a yellow legal pad because they gave it to me at work and there you go. Oh,
sorry, I'm taking notes on one. I totally didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's awesome. I love that. I love the yellow legal pads. And I think I've always loved that since I was little, like a kid. And I think I've always loved writing by pen and paper because I can go back from when I was like 7 and making up all these random stories. And they're in these notebooks that I've hidden away, like all over my room, basically. But I love that it kind of keeps you engaged in what you're doing. And I can't have a million tabs open like I can on my computer.
Yes.
I'm really bad about that. And I know that I have to edit on my computer, but I also love when I'm like transcribing it, I catch so many things and I get so many new ideas rather than just reading it. I'm typing it. It's something about that, like the actual tactile ability of being able to move it from I'm writing it and that's tactile and then I'm typing it. And I love that transition step of taking it from the page to the computer, because I get so many ideas that way. But yeah, I love that I can't edit as well on my notebook as I can on my computer. So even if I scratch it out, the word is still there. I can still see that I wrote that. So
Yeah, like you have a whole history there. You have your revision
yeah.
history just right there for you to see it and draw upon if you need it.
Yes, and margins. I use the margins constantly. I'm like, this doesn't sound like a real name. That's not an actual word. Like random things in my margins all the time. So I love going back and seeing that.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
talked about one of the perks is not having a bunch of tabs open. What would you say is your biggest roadblock to writing? Is it sort of the busyness of the internet?
I think so. I think it wasn't as big of a problem as it is now, because now I know I can be like writing a blog post, or I could be doing this. I could be doing so many other things where I'm like, okay, you need to actually write a book because that's what people know you for. And like, that's what you really like to do. So can you write something, please? So definitely the busyness of the internet that keeps me from writing. And then also just, I think a lot of the times I'll keep myself from writing if I feel like I don't have a good idea, even though I might have a bunch of scenes already. If I have an idea for a scene that I might want to write, I'll just write that down. And then that way, when I find time, I just go right back to that. It takes the thinking out of, okay, I'm sitting down to write, but I don't know what I'm going to write about. So once I sit down to write, it's good. Once I sit down to write, I can get done pretty quickly and move through it. It's more the actual sitting down to write part that trips me up, because I always think, oh my gosh, it's going to take so much time, even though I know it doesn't. Like, I have to actually remind myself, hey, you know that this isn't very time consuming. You're going to be okay. Just sit down.
Yeah. I have
Yeah,
trouble with that too. It's just, you'll enjoy it once you're there, but it's kind of getting there and dragging yourself along to that point that can be hard.
exactly. Exactly. And like right now, I'm writing a sequel, like a full length sequel to my first book. So I'm finding that it's like really kind of, I don't have to really deal with this yet because I'm still working through the first draft. But a lot of it, I'm like, okay, are these characters staying true to what they were in the first book? And are people going to like this one as much as they like the first book? Like now there are expectations. So it's a little weird. Like, not that I'm like this huge author with all of these readers that are going to be like, oh my gosh, what's happening? But still, like, there are definitely a good amount of people that are going to be, oh, this isn't how she acted in the first book or whatever. So it's
Hmm.
a lot. And I'm pretty meticulous with that kind of stuff. So it's been interesting. It's definitely a different experience. I think every book is different. Every time you sit down and write, it's a different experience. That's an added kind of pressure, I'd say.
Oh, definitely. You had mentioned earlier kind of finding maybe strength or inspiration from the Twitter community.
Yes,
Can
I
you tell
love
me
them.
tell me more about that?
I have just an enormous love for Twitter. That is where I found like all of my writing friends, and I don't know, I love it so much. But I found like really good writing partners and like beta readers that way, and just I that's where I found I could hop on at any point. I would go and sit in the coffee shop and be like, okay, I'm gonna do a writing sprint, and I could just hop on and be like, anybody want to do a writing sprint? And then I would have like five people that were like, I'm in. And I was like, this is the coolest thing. I'm not writing by myself. This is awesome. So I found so many, and that's where I met Kristen from She's Novel. I met her. I saw her on
Oh.
Twitter first, I believe. And then I emailed her and I was like, "Hey, you're wonderful. I'm like one of those people that like I see you on Twitter and I'm going to, if I love you, I'm probably going to email you and just like write this. I mean, because I did this to you. And I'm like genuine about it. Like I'm not like I've gotten emails like that before, and most of the time they're like great, and I'm immediately like, I love you too. Like you're wonderful. But I don't want people to feel like this is just Jenny. She's just emailing you because, whatever.
Because you
But
exist. Yeah.
yeah, because you exist. But yeah, I found her that way, and I sent her an email and I was like, I think you're awesome. Can we collaborate in some way? You're fantastic. And then we started the Story Social Twitter chat. So that's every Wednesday at 8 Central Time. Yes. So that's so fun. And now we have this little cool community that comes out every Wednesday to talk about writing and social media. And so it's so much fun. I love Twitter. I love the connection of Twitter. I don't think it's necessarily a great place for selling, I guess. I think a lot of people approach Twitter in the wrong way. They're like, I'm going to use Twitter and I'm going to become this huge famous author just from Twitter. But I think the best way to use Twitter is one-on-one connection and just finding people that are really exciting to you, and you go from there.
How is it for you writing creatively versus writing for your blog? Do you notice a big difference there? Do you approach it differently?
On my blog, the way that I write is pretty much just like the way that I write in my books. And so if you connect to that, you'll probably connect to my books. So I think that is why it overlaps. But most of the time I'm writing to a friend, so to say. That's how my platform kind of is across all, like if you go on my Instagram, a lot of the times I'll be like, I'll start it off with like, hey friends, or ask you a question, or, it's all about connecting. And I think that kind of shows all over on Twitter, Instagram, my blog, whatever.
Yeah, and I think that helps draw people, and I think that helps create authenticity for you, especially if you're the same person when you're writing books as you are everywhere else. Yeah.
Exactly. And I just kind of want to be open and honest about the writing process and honest about just everything. I think the world and the internet space needs a lot more authenticity and just people to be like, hey, this is how it's really going. And my blog, in some ways, my blog kind of almost reads like a diary at points, where it's like, here it goes, all the way through. Here she started writing, here she's publishing. So that's kind of cool. And it's fun for me to look back on too and be like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Look, when I found my title for my book. And it's really cool. So I think that's fun to share with people.
It is, because it's like you're bringing them along with you and kind of sharing that with them, and they're a part of it, and people love to continue to be a part of things. And
absolutely.
So I have a couple more questions for you. The first one, I want to know, what is your absolute favorite thing about writing fiction?
Oh my gosh. I've always been a storyteller. That's my favorite part since you can ask my mom, since I was little and first started talking, I was just making up these stories in my head. If we were going on a walk, we're not just going on a walk, we're running from the enemy, every single time, everything. I just lived in this total imaginative world, which that's why I know at some point I'm going to write fantasy, that's going to happen at some point, because I love that. But I love telling stories and I love sharing stories with people. So I think that's my favorite part of fiction, is that, and characters. I love character work. Rainbow Rowell has been such a huge influence on my writing, and a lot of people have said that if you read it, you can tell a lot of the influence that she's had on me. And I think she does such a good job with characters that I knew when I sat down to write a novel, I wanted to write a novel about people that felt real, that weren't just these cookie cutter characters, especially because mine is heavily a romance, or a contemporary romance, and I wanted to make sure you weren't just sitting down oh, boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl is I needed it to have more nuance to that, and more, you're reading it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is just like me, or oh my goodness, this sounds just like my best friend. So I think that's really exciting, to just kind of engage people with characters and the story, and it's just so great. I love all of that. I've always loved reading. I've always loved the story. It's wonderful. So I love fiction. I graduated with an English degree from college, and I had started on on the totally opposite track. I was going to be a doctor. And then one day I went to my dad and I was like, can we have a real conversation about this? And he was like, okay. And we had dinner, and I was like, all right, I'm going to talk to you about my life plans. And he's like, okay. And I said, I would like to be an English major now. And I told him, I was like, and I really think I would be great at stories, and this is awesome. And then, I can always make something with my degree. And he was like, all right, let's do it. And he was my parents are the most supportive people in the entire world. So every time I come up with these crazy harebrained schemes, they're like, you're going to make it work. All right, let's do it. And then it worked out perfectly. So yeah.
What a gift.
I'm so lucky to have my family. My sister has a blog too, and she's the one that set up my blog and helped me and was like, you need to start blogging. If you want people to find you, that's what you need to do. And we're just like this little like cheerleader family. We're like, oh, one of us is doing something important. We're all like cheering on that other one. So it's been fun. It's been really fun.
That is awesome. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you have that. And I'm so glad that it sounds like they kind of give you this great energy that you have. And
Yes, it's amazing.
maybe along those lines, and maybe not, I want to ask if there has been a particular mentor in your life who has kind of guided you, given you advice, and what that person maybe has done for you.
Oh my goodness. I have so many. I have so many. I think as far as, I guess, as far as life wise, I think my family just hands on each member. I mean, it's my mom and my dad and my sister. We're just this close knit family. And my sister is so driven. And that's what my mom is like. I don't know what happened, but I raised this family of little entrepreneurs. What's going on? Without them, I don't know what I would do. They're so supportive and they're always, I know I can call up and all three of them and be like, hey, I have to talk to you about this plan that I have. And even if they don't understand what I'm talking about, they're like, okay, that sounds great. Awesome. So I think my sister, I mean, my whole family definitely, but my sister has had a huge influence on me. She's my younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me, but she's still like, we are so opposite. She's going to be the doctor. She's the science brain one, but we can bounce things off of each other all the time, which is great. So that's been really exciting. I love having my family is like, they're all three of them are mentors for me. On the writing side, Ksenia Ansky has been a huge influence on me. She's the reason probably that I self-published because I found her blog. And before that, I went to school for writing. So we always talked about querying and then like, you're going to find a literary agent and you're going to find a publisher. And that was the plan. And that's the way it worked. And until I found her, that's what I thought I was going to do. And then I found her blog and I read that thing just like constantly. I was constantly on my computer, constantly reading what she had to say. And I was like, I think I'm going to self-publish. And I've never thought that that was an actual possibility or actual like a choice that people made. I had no idea. And it's been the best decision. And I've loved it. And I've met so many cool people that way.
The blog that you mentioned, can you spell her name?
Yes, it's Ksenia. And then her last name is Ansky, which is Anske.
Cool. I want to make sure that I link to her in today's show notes as well.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She's so great.
Oh my gosh. Jenny, I love talking to you. This has been super delightful.
This is the best. I told you I'm a talker, so.
No, I love it. This has been amazing. I feel really inspired right now just having like looked you in the face for this past however long we've been talking. Like you guys, you need to see Jenny's face. She's just been like glowing as she's been talking about her love of writing. I think that if you do end up doing video webinars and series and all that stuff, like you're going to find great success because your energy just shoots right through the screen and I love it. And so now I'm like, well, I want to, ditch all my evening plans and like set aside my time for a writing sprint. And Wednesdays, you said you guys do.
Wednesdays. Yeah, we do Story Social at 8 p.m. and it's, we have a Twitter account so you can follow it's Story Social Chat is the Twitter account and we always tweet out our stuff. But yeah, it's really fun and there's a cool group that comes out pretty much. I mean, we have a pretty consistent following now and a pretty regular group of people that come out. So it's really fun and people just have so many good ideas and it's awesome. So definitely recommend that if you're looking for a group to be a part of. It's really fun. It's so important to get connected in some kind of community, especially Twitter is the best place to look for it because there are a lot of writing chats and all kinds of stuff like that. So I highly recommend Twitter because you can find all kinds of people on there.
I love it. I might link to your Twitter profile too, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, I'm on Twitter like daily, so that's like my place.
Perfect. Oh gosh. Well, Jenny, you are a gem. You are just an absolute... You are just lovely. I've loved talking to you. Let's please keep in touch.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for asking to be on my show. This has just been just a real treat. So thank you.